So what we thought, and this kind of, and I didn't answer your question about the mitochondria having its own DNA, but remember, because mitochondria are descendants of bacteria, they've retained their own set of DNA. And the difference between the DNA in mitochondria and the DNA in our nucleus is that the DNA in the mitochondria are in the immediate proximity to where those free radicals are generated in our mitochondria. And keep in mind that our mitochondria is the #1 source of endogenous free radical generation. So those free radicals that are generated within our body, the vast majority are produced in the mitochondria, and that DNA resides in the immediate proximity of where those free radicals are generated. The other thing to keep in mind is that this DNA is relatively unprotected. So when you look at the DNA in the nucleus, it's protected by these elaborate proteins called histones, and those are absent in the DNA in the mitochondria. And the other thing to keep in mind is that there is very little what we call junk DNA in the mitochondria. So whereas in the nucleus we have apparently reams and reams of all sorts of DNA that don't code for genes, so we term them junk DNA. In the mitochondria, that DNA is so tightly packed that if there's free radical damage at any point to that DNA, it's likely going to have a negative impact to the gene that it codes for. So one of the things that we're starting to see is that as free radicals are generated, it's not so much that the free radicals themselves is bad, but the damage that they do to the mitochondrial DNA. And when that mitochondrial DNA is damaged, it can no longer code for certain proteins, and the overall function of the mitochondria and its energy-making capacity start to decrease. And going back to what we said earlier on, everything that happens in the cell requires energy. So you start to damage the DNA that's responsible for producing that energy, everything's going to start to fall apart. And that is what now is seen as the predominant theory for aging, is what we call the mitochondrial theory of aging. So it's not so much the free radical theory of aging or the wear and tear theory of aging. It really is being shown that mitochondria and the ability of that mitochondria to function optimally is what is the main gauge of longevity and health in our bodies.